What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my comprehensive analysis and build guide for Ancient Xane, our latest rail unit that we have got from the Grand Hero battle, and he is a blue infantry mage this time. He does have a preferred weapon in Ancient Trickery, and this does give him plus 5 HP, and at start of the turn on the closest foes and the foes that are in 2 spaces of them, he's going to be debuffing them for -7 speed and resistance and also the sabotage status. And if you run any kind of fast or resistance targeting units, then his debuffs can be really helpful to those allies. And then if his HP is at or above 25%, in the combat he can get up to plus 14 to all of his stats, and at the bare minimum he's going to be getting 5. So this is going to be dependent on foe's attack, the visible attack that is, and then he can also copy all of these stats depending on the highest stat allies that are in 3 spaces of them subtracted with his stats. And if he's got higher stats than the allies, then his stats are going to be getting decreased. So that's why the only stat which really matters for Xane is the HP stat. Everything else is simply going to be copied from the allies, so team building is a key part of using Ancient Xane, just like it is with Halloween Xane. And then he has got true damage based on 20% of his speed. This is not going to be there for the AoE specials, and then he gets 7 flat damage reduction on foe's first attack. So here he is as the first Grey Lina to have a tempo skill, so this can be helpful for the prerequisite, but a lot of the times many of the infantry units can simply just run tempo echo as their attune slot and get the piercing out of that, because even the tier 4 version of the tempo skill is not going to be giving you true damage like resonance, for example, and true damage is pretty important nowadays to hit hard against a lot of the tanky units. Infantry Pulse is already available in the Grail pool in form of Boyd, Farkas, and also Marissa, who started it all. And even though they do have that skill, it is going to be unlocked at 5-star. And Ancient Xane is going to be your easiest form of getting Infantry Pulse 3 because it is going to be coming at 4-star. So in the future, if you get extra copies of him, then you do not need to spend feathers to upgrade him to 5-star, and you can just get the prerequisite from there. And he does have a super boon on his HP, which again, as I said, is the only stat which matters to Xane, because he is the kind of unit that does not really need a lot of investment in terms of merges or dragon flowers. He just needs the +1 merge and then 1 dragon flower so that he can increase his HP. The HP stat is what you should be focusing on, and in fact I probably wouldn't even bother spending my Syndet Floret on any of his stats, because again, HP stat is the only one that he cannot copy, so just focus on that, and it's already pretty high. Now comparing him with Halloween Xane, unfortunately it is going to be a bit disappointing because he is strictly a downgrade. Here we have got Halloween Xane with close counter built in his weapon, and that is amazing for the compression because we do not have close counter as a sacred seal, we do not even have that as an attune skill, so you're not able to have it even on those slots, and you're forced to run it in the slot A if you want to have that effect, so it's a bit restricting. And Halloween Xane also copies the stats in a similar fashion, but he also gives a bit better support in my opinion with the Omni +6 and Null Panic. Null Panic can be really helpful against Laratha teams, and that's why he can be a dedicated anti-Laratha unit basically, because he can be the forced assigned decoy for Savior, and he's going to be having a better time for saving because he also gets higher flat damage reduction because it is going to be scaling based on 20% of his higher defense or resistance. It's not just limited to a number like 7 flat damage reduction, and then on top of that he has got the scal effect. So unfortunately Ancient Xane faces competition from his Halloween self, and there's again not even an argument of investment, because even Halloween Xane can work with low investment, just +1 merge and plus HP IV. It's just that he will need to be summoned, whereas Ancient Xane is a free-to-play unit and he's going to be present in the Grail shop, and you could certainly try and +1 merge him, but it's mainly going to be there just to maximizing him or for using him in Arena, which does require the merges for the scoring. Before we go on to the builds, let's take a look at the good allies that you should be running with Xane, and the allies are very important because he's going to be copying the stats. So you can have defensive behemoths like Duorea and Hathrin, And Duorea is seen running Stronghold or Fortifications a lot of the times. So if you have that, then that is amazing because she also provides Miracle to Xane, and she can function as a near savior while, you know, Xane can take on the range units. Aether also just tries to maximize on her bulk with Stronghold that she comes with. Alm here does have the Speed Taker, and he does have the great talent in speed as well. So that great talent can actually be copied, and that is something you can take advantage of. So he can be a good nuke, and he also is quite fast. If you're looking for some free-to-play options, then offensively there is Spring Lonku, who can give you the attack and speed. And then in the free-to-play version, we also have Marnie, who can give you the defense and resistance. And then if you're trying to improve his enemy phase potential when it comes to the tanking, then Seteth is going to be one of the best allies, if not the best free-to-play ally that you could run with him. Because here, Ancient Xane unfortunately doesn't have a lot of flat damage reduction, and that's needed for tanking, and Seteth gives that exactly. And he also gives extra stats and also the Dalol effect in his Refine, and he can also run Soaring Echo and Breath of Life to support Xane. So he's going to be a complete package. Attune Micaiah can also provide you with the cleansing, which can be helpful. And again, she is a common unit who can run stuff like Breath of Life. Veil can also be helpful because even though she is limited by the proximity of her effect, still like Xane is going to be near his allies most of the time. So you can take advantage of her supportive effects and also the AoE damage reduction, which Xane does need because his own bulk isn't all that high. So AoE specials are going to be doing a lot of damage if you were to face them. Ninja Lucina, as always, is going to be amazing for the middle of the turn debuffs. Her detect skill does give you the lull speed defense, and the lull speed part is certainly helpful. Legendary Sakura can provide you with the flat damage reduction support and also provide you with the ice lock support, so you can restrict the approach options of the enemies when it comes to a lot of the melee units, and that is appreciated. And then depending on your matchups and the builds that you're running, you can try and run Desert Ike, who can function as a frontliner. He also gives out the Rift status basically, so Xane can make use of it. And if we're trying to stat stack, then of course XANE'S is going to be helping with the bonus doubler. Just make sure that the allies have got the higher stats, so you can pretty much use that and stack up a lot of stats as he's going to be copying the actual stat value from his allies. So going +9 with the help of XANE'S does help. Because Xane has got high HP, he can easily make use of Desert Marissa, and Xane is the type of unit who wants to function in both phases. So the dual phase Brave effect does help, but if you're just focusing on player phase, then again, Brattle Catcher and stuff like that is an option. And we also have Emblem Erica, who has the Hexblade effect and is incredibly powerful. So she can give the empathy status to Xane for stat stacking, whereas she can take advantage of the resistance and speed debuff that Xane can put onto the foes and also the sabotage status. And then finally, we also have Plumeria, the best dancer in the game, with the middle of the turn debuff with the frozen status, and that way it can be even harder for the enemy to double Xane if he's copying a lot of speed and defense from an ally. For an absolute budget build, you can go with Speed Defense Finish 3 from a 4-star duo and just run Speed Resistance Finish as the Sacred Seal as well, so you're going to be getting a bit of true damage at least. And you can also run Emblem Ike Ring so that you can get some unpierceable damage reduction. So at this kind of budget level, it is going to be a bit harder to stack up the flat damage reduction, but still you can try and copy the stats of your allies. And if you're going to be spending a bit more of a fodder on him with the Divine Coats, then you could try and give him the fodder of Brave Sovereign and also any kind of unit with attack speed finish. I'm just showing Halloween Female Corin here, but just keep in mind that if you're an enjoyer of Ed skills, then I think that the priority lies in foddering her for Dragon's Wrath 3 instead of attack speed finish. But as I said, any kind of unit with attack speed finish is going to be working here so that you can have this kind of build. So with Magical Null Follow-Up, you're going to be having some piercing, and because he's likely going to be stacking up speed from an ally, you can take advantage of the Null Follow-Up. And Time Pulse 4 does help with Flare because Flare is a 3 cooldown special, as Ancient Xane does not have any kind of slaying effect. So that's why you can try and have any kind of time pulse effect so that it can help you trigger your special easily and also make use of the Emblem ring. If you're spending any kind of trade fruits on him, then I would suggest going with the plus HP IV, which is a super boon. And then for the Bane, you can select defense, because the lower the defense, the better it is for Larather targeting him with his force assigned decoy. And then Xane can basically become a far savior from there. So the low defense is going to be helping you if you plan on not merging him. And that's just something I wanted to tell. And then if you have even more fodder from Divine Codes, then you can combine Brave Soren with Desert Ike and Attune Bridges fodder and make a build with Lagoo's Loyalty. I wouldn't say this is the most optimal build, and I do feel like Lagoo's Friend is just a better slot B skill for him, but still at least Lagoo's Loyalty does give you some flat damage reduction, and its true damage and rift effect is a bit limited where it's only there in the enemy phase. But still, again, as I said, some kind of flat damage reduction is good. And you also get perfect attack speed and tempo echo, which can help you a lot with its effects. You get the piercing, you get the tempo effect, and you also get the null follow-up effect. And Time Pulse Edge is also good for stat stacking because it's strictly better than Time Pulse 4. So it's going to be an upgrade. And if you cannot have access to Lagoo's Friend fodder, then this is a build that you can run at max with the Divine Codes that we have got. But if you've got some extra additional fodder, then this is going to be the best build for Ancient Xane in my opinion. So Close Bonus Doubler is going to be helping you stack up a lot of stats. You could also run Attack Speed Prime if you want to, but the thing with Close Bonus Doubler is that it can result in extra defense and resistance, which does help in tanking, and it is going to be working based on the visible buffs of your allies, so it's going to be taking the stats from that, even if you face any kind of enemy with a lull skill or a dull skill. And then Lagoo's Friend 4 is going to be good with Flare, because Flare is going to be a 3 cooldown special, and Lagoo's Friend gives you not only the flat damage reduction, but it also gives you the true damage on your special triggers, and it is going to be giving you the full piercing, so you do not need to run Tempo Echo as long as you're triggering specials with this kind of build, which you're going to be. And again, Time Pulse Edge is going to be helping you stack up the speed so that he can get even more true damage out of his weapon. And with Lagoo's Friend build, you would need to make sure that he has got any kind of ally who can give him really high defensive stats so that he can make use of that and get the flat damage reduction out of the sloppy scale. And Hardy Bearing is also going to be really helpful because even if you copy a lot of speed, there is always going to be someone who may be faster than you, and you don't really want to get hit by their follow-up attack if they have Desperation. And a lot of range nukes with Emblem Lin are going to be having Desperation, so that's why Hardy Bearing does help, but you can also run a finish kill if you want to. But Hardy Bearing is just going to be stopping any kind of Desperation in its tracks. And Null Counter Disrupt Echo, in my opinion, is the best attune slot for Xane because just like Halloween Xane, he can function as an anti-Larather unit because of his low defense, and he does not mind becoming a far savior. So Larather also inflicts the flash status, and that's why having Null Counter Disrupt Echo is going to be helping you with your game plan. And it's certainly going to be taking a lot of fodder, but yeah, that's going to be the max build for you, which is obviously going to be expensive. And if you want to use him in Aether Raids offense, then he could be used in the light season, and he could be supported by Lumera so that he can tank the AoE specials a bit better. And the Stone Terrain as it is does help, and Rune also gives you the empathy for stat stacking. So this way, even if you're forced to far save against Larather teams, he can help you and have a meaningful role in Aether Raids offense because he's going to be mainly used as an anti-Larather unit. I think that letting go of C bonus doubler for perfect attack speed is going to be better in the long run because you get the full null follow-up, and he's going to be able to tank quite a bit with the 7 flat damage reduction in his weapon, with the flare giving you the healing and also the unpierceable damage reduction with Emblem Ring, Lagoo's Friend giving you the flat damage reduction, and all of that hopefully can help you tank the enemies if you give him the allies with high visible defense and resistance, and also speed, because that is also going to be a defensive stat in a way with perfect attack speed. If you want to use him in arena, then that could be done with the plus 10 merges. Again, merges are going to be important in the arena scenario, but he doesn't really score all that high. He actually scores below Cyril, and there isn't really any kind of 300 SP Sacred Seal that you can run. I hope that we can get close counter Sacred Seal. I don't know what they're afraid of. So you could run this kind of build and run Emblem Lin Ring, and the main silver lining of running Xane in your arena core is going to be the fact that you're able to snipe from a distance using that emblem ring, and you can easily run creation pulse and time pulse echo so that you can hit the enemy with the flare, and hopefully the flat damage reduction can help you survive. I don't think a lot of hardcore arena players are going to be building him up for arena usage because, like I said, he doesn't score high enough. But if you have other high scoring units and if you do not care that much about tier 20.5 or tier 21, then you can still make use of him in your arena core. Certainly better than a lot of the other magical units that we have got in the free-to-play pool with the other mages. So Xane is definitely a bit ahead of them. And then finally, he also is going to be having application in Pawns of Loki. He's going to be a unit you're going to be seeing quite a lot there, and just like Halloween Xane, he can have a lot of fun there. So stacking up HP is needed for Pawns of Loki scoring, and Firestorm boost is going to be helping with that. HP plus 5 is good because the regular HP scales do show up earlier when you do not have that high of a leveled unit. So that's why this is the Sacred Seal you're going to be seeing quite a lot from the hardcore Pawns of Loki players, and you also do not get any kind of stats with it, so it works out with Xane's game plan. Infantry Pulse 4 can always be run on him as well for utilizing his HP if you need that kind of support from him, but in the other builds he is mainly going to be focusing on his combat because it is going to be a hard task being this kind of ranged tank who is going to be copying the stats from his allies. So we're going to be needing a lot of meaningful combat effects, and just these stats are never going to be letting you win all of the battles. You can click the link on his screen right now to check out my breakdown of the free Hero Rises winner in Attuned Hector, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Ancient Xane having a scal effect in his preferred weapon. So with that said, let's see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.